Thank you very much. And again, you guys are wonderful to have Jay, Mike, Hollis, of course, the violin, Tim, and Maestro Scott. So, Spirit is always talking to us. Are we listening? To me, everything is a reflection of our own consciousness within the context of our own spiritual plan. A while ago, while I was in transition coming to North Carolina, it all seemed that there was a specific plan for me, and one moment everything shifted, and I didn't know anymore what was going to happen. And a friend at the time told me, we've heard before, if you want God to laugh, tell them your plans. And as we evolve in this unity path, we realize that even though we can co-create our circumstances with God, it is really, have come to understand that it is really within the context of your own divine plan. I truly believe that it is only in the fulfillment of that plan that we're really going to be happy and fulfilled. I really know and believe that Spirit, the universe, God talks to us, and in another language, not necessarily the verbal, linear language that we're used to, but it's like more of an intuition. That's the language of the heart. To me, is also moments of realizations where I just get it. I just know. Synchronicities. I have learned to pay attention to what's around me and how coincidences might be coincidences. It's really all conspiring towards a certain destination. And a big one for me are dreams. I'm a dreamer. Every night, almost every night, I have a dream about something. Or so paying attention to that other intuitive aspect of ourselves, it's really key to our evolution as spiritual beings, and we must make it a priority to really become experts in understanding this other language that we call the language of the heart, or our higher self communicating to us for guidance, and not only for guidance about maybe decisions, but guidance about what we say here every week about really awakening to our divine nature. And I like to put it in more Catholic terms, to reach that state of sainthood. This early experience is really all about a scenario in which we can accomplish that. And we might all have different scripts, but it's the same goal that we are looking after. So a very important quality for us, and this is how we have labeled this year, is the year of audacity. And when you look at what audacity means, it's like the capacity or the willingness to take risk. And I add up that willingness to think or act differently, to be willing to be in the unknown when you don't quite understand everything, but you're willing to just be in a place of not knowing, to be out of the box of what maybe the collective consciousness feels is normal for you. We could maybe recap it in being grounded in that heart space. There's a beautiful quote from Emmanuel, who's like a spiritual entity that Ram Dass talks a lot about, and I have a quote regarding that. He says, "Your intuitive heart is the doorway that stands between the worlds. In your willingness to go against all reason, all defenses, all habits, all patterns, all superstitions, and many of the teachings, to say, 'I will love.' You walk in the light. You honor the illusion, but will never become lost in it." And I know we all rely on a particular belief system that helps us operate in the world. And sometimes that belief system might not be the best one, but we do the best we can. But as we move forward in life and we want more of life or our own spiritual life, we notice that belief system gets challenged or shaken, and it gets to a point where in order to be out of there and to develop a new one, we really need to, at some point, stand on faith. A while ago, going back to the fact that I dream very often, I had this particular dream about a minister friend of mine who showed up in my dream saying, I'm doing this workshop at the church, and I have it almost done, but I need help in finishing it up and, marketing it and whatever. She's not from this church, but in the dream, she was going to do that. And I'm noticing in the dream that she is somewhat concerned. And I ask her, I feel some fear. Is everything okay with you? And she starts very emotional, saying, well, it's just that I'm having financial troubles. I don't, when my month is over, hardly have anything left. And she even mentioned, I have left $5.60, where I'm like, okay. And then I in my dream, I see myself connecting to this friend, and I'm saying, but we know better. We know God is the source. We know that as we give, we receive. So are you tithing? And she looked at me saying, no, I'm not, because that's the thing. How can I tithe if I don't get enough? And I looked at her in the dream and I said, well, at the end of the day, tithing, it's about putting God first, and it's an act of faith. Yeah, we really don't know, but it's all faith-based. And I woke up with this big emotional thing, and I'm like, why is that I'm so emotional about this dream? So I started meditating and journaling some of the things that I do in my practice. And I was trying to understand the meaning behind my friend and all of that. And then I said, okay, I know people who do dream work, they say flip, so you are that person. And I went, okay, so I'm planning on teaching something, and I'm not completely prepared for the teaching. And then I'm having financial concerns, and I'm thinking, no, but I don't, I have come a long way there, and I tithe. What is really saying? But as I went deeper and brought back to the idea that tithing, it's really about putting God first, I realized that there was an area, a particular situation in my life where I was not doing it. And I was thinking, why are you doing it? And I realized, well, there's some fear. Okay, there's fear because you're not trusting, your faith is not in God. So it's like, Anna is an act of faith, right? So as I had my own dream analysis, it became very clear to me that in order for me to continue teaching others or helping others or supporting others in their spiritual growth, I need to continue doing my own work. And that in a way, the dream was a beautiful way where spirit or my higher self or my Christ presence was just speaking to me, even though initially I'm thinking that it's about somebody else. So as I'm engaged into this full experience, I'm like, oh gosh, I feel this is like Sunday morning material, And I'm like, oh, I'm speaking on the 18th. Well, let me just share this. And then I'm like, Scott came to mind, and like he had said it was a big St. Patrick's Day, so I'm going to connect these two. And I went to research St. Patrick's life. And to see that there's an amazing correlation and connection, I'm like, wow, this is all guided. So I don't know if you are aware, but St. Patrick is one of the greatest church heroes and saints in the history of the church. And many miracles are attributed to St. Patrick, but the greatest one is his amazing evangelistical success that he had in Ireland. He established over 300 churches and baptized like over 100,000 people himself in his whole career. By the end of his life, the Christian faith was fully established in Ireland. So I was thinking, so the life of St. Patrick really, especially those beginning when I read about what happened to him early in his life, really exemplifies my point today. And it's the point being that Spirit speaks to all of us within the frame of our own individual plan. And that as we are ready, as that plan is ready for us to play it out or act it out, the receptivity increases because circumstances will bring you to a place where you really have to listen. And being able to listen and act on it, sometimes it's not easy. It might mean ups and downs. But we need to know that within the ups and downs, the trend is always upward. And I was thinking I've been watching a lot of documentaries on Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And I mean, even though I was not born yet, when you really, study his life to know that he had been born in a family of privilege, and he had this vision to become president of the United States, and then he develops polio, and is completely paralyzed. And most of us would have said, well, this is it for my political career, but he hung on, and he just went on to make it to the presidency at a moment where this country was going through the Great Depression, and just to see how he had that internal strength to carry this country out of that economic turmoil, and then to lead the country while World War II. And there's an interesting comment on his last inaugural address, which was beginning of early January 1945, the year that the war finally ended, but he did die before the war ended. And he says that, he decided on not having any fancy inauguration, no procession, nothing. He says, we're not to celebrate. This is not a time to make a big deal. So he just basically stayed in the porch up there, had, did his swearing, and then spoke for less than 5 minutes, which says it has never been like that ever since George Washington. So he only spoke for 5 minutes, and this is what he said. Very powerful and very much related to what I'm trying to, my point here. He says that we should strive for perfection. We shall not achieve it immediately, but we shall still strive. We may make mistakes, not from faintness of the heart or abandonment of moral principles, but we should always strive. And then he quotes his former headmaster, who said this: "In days that seem to us then to be secure and untroubled, things in life will always run smoothly, sometimes rising towards the heights. Then all of a sudden, all might seem to reverse itself and go downward. The great fact is to remember that in the trend of civilization, it's forever going forward, upward." And then he said, "If you draw a line in the middle of the peaks and the valleys, through all the centuries, you will always see an upward trend. And I had like a aha moment. I go, yeah, we might go in life up and down, and when we're down, we think it's going to stay like that, or maybe we would never get up. But when we actually see our life, the ups and downs, it's always, we're moving forward. We're expanding in consciousness and in faith. So then back to St. Patrick. He was born to a Catholic family in Ireland, and he didn't take that Catholic faith too seriously. He had a wonderful life. And at 16, somehow, he's violently captured by pirates. And from Britain, they took him back to pagan Ireland, where he was sold as a slave. So all of a sudden, he sees himself as a slave, completely humiliated, being somebody else's property, terrified, thinking, will I ever see my family again? Will I ever leave this, first he would call it God-forsaken land? And he got to a point where he was so hopeless that he then said, oh my God, I was taught something about God and having faith. So he started to pray and pray and pray and pray more. And I have a quote from his autobiography. More and more did the love of God and my fear of him and faith increase. And my spirit was moved so that in a day I prayed 100 prayers. And in the night, a like number. Besides, I used to stay out in the forest and on the mountain, and I would wake up before daylight to pray in the snow, in icy coldness, in rain. And I used to feel neither ill nor any slothfulness, because as I now see, the Spirit was burning in me at that time. Then one night, after several years, 6 years or so, in which he was forced into hard and dirty work, but his spirit was growing closer to God. He had a mystical experience. A voice supernaturally spoke to him and said, you do well to fast. Soon you will depart for your home country. What did it mean? Looking at his circumstances, there certainly didn't seem to be a way out. But during another night, not much later, he heard another voice that said, behold, your ship is ready. He's thinking, a ship? I'm like 200 miles away from the nearest harbor. How could I ever make it there? And then maybe, but he stayed connected and he stepped into faith, and somehow he was guided out of where he was into the harbor to find a ship there waiting for him, on which he embarked. He went back to his Britain. I'm not going to bring you all the story, but a lot of miracles happened, and he had more spiritual transformation until he was set off to complete that divine plan. So think about it. From complete slavery, hopelessness, just by going within, doing the work, being audacious, praying incessantly, he was led not only to the ship, but through the process to make it there. And I love the scripture that says, for we don't walk by sight, but by faith. And that's how he walked, by faith. And the ship was there, waiting for an amazing future of spiritual work. So I ask you, can you believe that your ship is ready? And what is your ship? Is it the healing of a condition? Is it the renewal of a relationship? Is it finding the right and perfect job where you're meant to be? Is it a dream that you've always had that is still unfulfilled? And if we follow this story, I must say that that solution, that answer, it's waiting for you. Even if it feels like a great distance. I love to think, and this is something that in my prayer work, it's one of my affirmations, that the same level of desire in my heart, there's the same power to fulfill it. So when I'm really desiring something that feels real, God-given, I know that the same amount of power is waiting on it to be fulfilled. Would it be easy? Not necessarily. Will there be ups and downs, like President Roosevelt was saying? Yes, there are going to be. There are going to be moments where we want to give up, where we will say, this is not worth it, I'm completely wrong, but it's just part of the process. If we stay connected to the source and to the practice, and if we really listen, we will be led out from that state of slavery into that ship that awaits for us. But it will only be seen through the eyes of faith, beyond the world, beyond the mind. I have come to a place in me where I'm like, I really want to just do God's plan. Because more and more I have seen that God's plan is always better than mine. And hopefully I will be at a space and I will live my life so I can really recognize it and trust it and surrender to it. And in that measure, I know that all that I'm looking for, what is it that we're looking for? We're looking to be fulfilled and happy and have meaningful lives and be free. So just know that that ship is ready. And just allow that inner guidance to lead you to it. So let us pray. Come back to the heart and honor it. Even if the mind wants to interfere and have an opinion, just listen to the heart and feel and be one with that desire and embrace it and protect it. Maybe protect it from what you have told yourself before, or from what fear forces you to think. But use that power of intention and will to shelter it, to keep it real, alive. And as you feel its intensity, just know that there's the same amount of power, of wisdom to guide you to it. If it's in complete alignment with your highest good and your divine plan. Just know it with every fiber of your being. and commit to a prayer life in which your faith can be nourished so that He can hold you through the ups and downs. That faith will be your guide, your support, your inspiration, and God's love for you and as you get to your ship. And you imagine yourself in that ship, seeing how you were perfectly led and safely to that destination of greatness that we are all meant to live. Just experience the joy of a fulfilled dream. And hear God's laughter saying, yes, I've always been here for you. You and I are one. Just let me do it. I will never fail you. Just relax and let it be. And let it be. And let it go. For this realization and this awareness and this dream and this ship, we say thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.